Beloved chosen one, stop for a moment and listen. This is not coincidence. This is not an algorithm. This is divine interruption. In the middle of lights, decorations, and familiar Christmas sounds, heaven leans close to you and calls your name. You are here because something sacred is being released, and you were meant to receive it. You are not watching this by accident. You are not hearing these words because you were bored or scrolling. You are here because light has been searching for you, and tonight it has found you. You have always felt different, even as a child. You sensed it before you had language for it. You saw the world through deeper eyes. You felt joy more intensely and pain more sharply. You questioned things others accepted without thought. You carried compassion that made no logical sense. And for a long time, you wondered why life felt heavier for you than for everyone else. Why the road was steeper. Why the nights were longer. Why you were required to grow up faster, endure more, and stand alone more often. But hear this clearly now, it was never punishment. It was preparation. This Christmas season is not just about what you give or what you receive with your hands. It is about what is being entrusted to your spirit. God does not waste suffering. God does not misplace his gifts. The reason you survived what should have broken you is because you were carrying something fragile and powerful at the same time. You were carrying light, and light must be protected before it is revealed. There were seasons when you felt unseen. Seasons when prayers seemed to echo back in silence. Seasons when people misunderstood your heart, questioned your motives, or walked away without explanation. You tried to stay pure in a world that rewards compromise. You tried to stay kind in a world that celebrates cruelty. You tried to stay faithful when it would have been easier to become numb. And heaven saw every moment of it. Every tear that fell in private was counted. Every time you chose integrity over applause, it was recorded. As it is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 9, verse 2. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who dwelt in a land of deep darkness, on them has light shone. That light is not generic. It is not random. It is personal. It is tailored to your calling, your story, your scars, and your obedience. You are not meant to blend in. You were never designed to disappear into the crowd. You are a carrier of illumination, and darkness has always known it. That is why resistance showed up early in your life. That is why opposition tried to exhaust you before you could awaken. Darkness always tries to intercept light before it matures. But you are still here, and that alone is proof that God has preserved you for this moment. This is a sacred pause. Heaven has pressed stop on the noise to speak directly to you. Do not minimize this moment. Do not brush it aside. Do not tell yourself this message is for someone else. This is for you. Right now, at this exact point in your life, there is a gift of light being offered this Christmas, not something you earn, but something you receive. And the first step is recognition. You must see yourself correctly. You are not weak for feeling deeply. You are not broken because you needed time to heal. You are not behind because your path looked different. You are aligned. You are being awakened. And the fact that you are still seeking God, still listening, still hoping, even after disappointment, tells heaven everything it needs to know about your heart. This is why you cannot quit now. Don't do it on no matter the price. Do not walk away at the edge of revelation. Many stop just before the light fully rises. Many retreat when the dawn begins to break because the night became familiar. But you were not created for survival mode. You were created to shine. If this message resonates with your spirit, take a moment to like it. Share it with someone who needs light this season. and subscribe to stay connected to what God is unfolding here. You are not meant to walk this awakening alone. And now, before you move on, seal this moment with a prophetic act. At the very end, comment the number 777 as a declaration that you are ready to receive the gift of light prepared for you this Christmas. Let this number be more than a comment. Let it be a signal in the spirit that you are no longer hiding, no longer doubting, no longer delaying what heaven has already confirmed about you. As you step forward, carry this truth with confidence. The light you receive will guide you, protect you, and expose the path ahead. You are worthy. You are ready. And you are chosen. You need to hear this clearly, because it corrects a lie that has followed you for years. You were never overlooked. Not once. Not in childhood. Not in the waiting seasons. Not in the moments when it felt like everyone else was chosen before you. Heaven has never lost track of you. God has never been distracted, delayed, or confused about your location or your value. What felt like absence was actually intention. There were times you wondered why doors seemed to open easily for others while you remained in holding patterns. You watched people advance, celebrated their milestones, and quietly questioned why your own life felt paused. But what you could not see then is what you are being allowed to understand now. God was doing deeper work in you than public success would have allowed. He was shaping your inner world before expanding your outer one. You were hidden, not forgotten. Hidden seasons are uncomfortable because they strip away applause. They confront you with yourself. They expose your motives, refine your desires, and teach you how to stand when no one is clapping. That is why those seasons felt long. That is why they felt lonely. God was building roots before allowing visibility. He was strengthening your character before increasing your influence. Light that shines too quickly without depth can burn out just as fast. You have always been seen by God, even when people misunderstood you, even when your obedience was quiet, even when your faith was fragile but sincere, even when you felt behind schedule compared to others your age. Heaven does not measure time the way humans do. God measures readiness. And everything you endured was preparing you to carry what is coming without being destroyed by it. The Spirit spoke clearly through the prophet Jeremiah, recorded in sacred scripture, chapter 1, verse 5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. That means your life was intentional before it was visible. Your calling existed before your circumstances. Your worth was established before your achievements. You were known before you were named. Set apart before you ever felt different. So the rejection you experienced did not disqualify you, it revealed you. The delays did not deny you, they protected you. The closed doors did not mean no, they meant not yet. You were spared from paths that would have damaged your spirit. You were withheld from environments that would have diluted your calling. What you interpreted as loss was actually divine preservation. God shielded you when you did not even know you needed shielding. He redirected you when you were asking for speed. He slowed you down when acceleration would have harmed you. This is why your heart remained soft when it could have hardened. This is why you still believe after disappointment. This is why you still seek truth in a world full of noise. Your spirit carries the fingerprints of God's careful attention. You were not rushed because you were precious. You were not ignored because you were dangerous to darkness. Now, looking back, you may begin to see patterns, moments when something fell apart just in time, relationships that ended before they could derail your purpose, opportunities that slipped away but would have cost you your peace. These were not accidents. They were divine interventions, quietly rearranging your future while you were only focused on the present. This understanding changes how you see yourself. You stop striving for validation. You stop comparing your timeline. You stop questioning whether you matter, because you realize you have always mattered. And now, as the light draws closer, you are able to receive it without fear, without pride, and without needing permission from people who never understood your assignment in the first place. You were never overlooked. You are being prepared in silence for a moment that requires strength, clarity, and unwavering faith. And that preparation is about to make sense. What once felt like delay will soon reveal itself as divine timing, perfectly measured and intentionally placed. You will recognize that nothing was wasted, and every waiting season sharpened your discernment and deepened your trust in God. The silence that tested you was also the space where your inner voice learned to hear heaven clearly. Stripped of distractions, you learned to recognize truth, resist deception, and stand firm without needing constant reassurance. As clarity settles in, gratitude will replace confusion. You will stop grieving what never happened and begin honoring what was divinely prevented. Peace comes when you realize God was protecting your future long before you understood the danger. Now you step forward differently, no longer striving to be seen, but anchored in knowing you already are. This confidence is quiet, unshakable, and rooted in the assurance that God has always been with you. You move ahead with steady faith, carrying lessons earned through waiting and trust refined by surrender. What unfolds next will confirm that the hidden seasons were never empty, but filled with purpose, guidance, and quiet miracles. You carried weight that was never meant to be visible, not because it was small, but because you learned early how to survive without making noise. You became the strong one by necessity, not by choice. While others leaned, you learned to stand. While others spoke freely, you learned to swallow pain and keep moving. And over time, that quiet endurance became part of your identity. You rarely complained, not because it didn't hurt, but because you knew complaining would not change the assignment. You sensed that what you were carrying had purpose, even if you couldn't explain it. So you adapted. You matured faster than those around you. You read rooms carefully, though you felt emotions deeply but showed restraint outwardly. People praised your strength without realizing the cost of it. There were nights when exhaustion went beyond the body. Your soul felt tired. Tired of being misunderstood. Tired of always being the one who gives, listens, supports, and forgives. You wondered who would carry you if you ever collapsed. You asked God questions you never voiced out loud, and still, you woke up the next day and did what had to be done. This is where your refinement happened. The weight you carried alone sharpened your empathy. It taught you how to recognize pain behind smiles. It gave you discernment that cannot be taught in classrooms. It trained you to sense shifts in atmosphere, intentions in words, and truth beneath appearances. What felt like emotional overload was actually spiritual sensitivity being forged under pressure. You were not weak for feeling overwhelmed. You were human, carrying more than most. But you were also being strengthened in ways that only solitude and struggle can accomplish. Some gifts are only activated in isolation. Some depth only comes from walking through valleys without witnesses. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms, chapter 34, verse 19. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of them all. Notice the order. Afflictions came, not because you were abandoned, but because you were righteous. And deliverance was always part of the design. Even when you could not see its timing. God was not absent in your suffering. He was present, observing how you responded, how you stayed tender, how you refused to let bitterness become your language. You did not break because you were reinforced from the inside. Each burden stretched your capacity, expanded your understanding, and deepened your reliance on God rather than people. That is why you now carry wisdom that surprises others. That is why your words hold weight. That is why your presence brings calm into chaotic spaces. The loneliness you felt was real, but it was not meaningless. It stripped away shallow connections and forced you to build an inner foundation. You learned who God was to you personally, not through borrowed faith or secondhand belief. You encountered him in silence, in questions, in tears, and in endurance. That kind of relationship cannot be shaken. Now, as you move forward, you are not carrying that weight in vain anymore. It has been transformed into authority, compassion, and clarity. You understand pain without being controlled by it. You can sit with others in their darkness without losing your light. That is not accidental. That is calling. Before you continue, anchor this truth with a simple response. Comment still standing. This is not just a statement. It is an acknowledgement that you endured without becoming empty, that you carried weight without losing faith, and that you are here, present, and ready for what comes next. When you write still standing, you are declaring that pressure did not erase you. It means the weight that tried to bend your spirit instead strengthened your core and clarified who you truly are beneath survival. Still standing is a witness statement. It tells heaven that although you were tested in silence, you did not surrender your integrity, your compassion, or your belief that God was still working. By typing still standing, you acknowledge the nights you endured without answers and the mornings you rose anyway. It honors resilience formed in private, not performance displayed in public. Still standing signals spiritual endurance. It means disappointment did not redefine you. Delay did not derail you, and misunderstanding did not corrupt your heart or harden your faith. When heaven sees still standing, it recognizes readiness. You are no longer asking why it happened. You are prepared to carry what comes next with wisdom, humility, and strength. This declaration closes one season and opens another. Still standing confirms that survival has given way to stability, and stability is now becoming authority, purpose, and quiet confidence. When you comment still standing, you testify that storms did not silence you. It declares endurance, faith under pressure, and the strength God built in you when no one else was watching. Still standing also means you refuse to quit at the edge of breakthrough. It is a clear signal that pain did not define your ending, and perseverance is now carrying you forward. You were not attacked because you were weak. You were targeted because you were luminous. Darkness does not waste energy on what poses no threat. From an early age, resistance seemed to follow you without explanation. Misunderstandings, rejection, sudden obstacles, and unprovoked opposition appeared at moments when you were simply trying to live with integrity. This was not random. It was reaction. Light exposes, it disrupts comfort built on deception. It challenges systems that survive in shadows. Your presence alone questioned things others preferred to leave unexamined. You did not even have to speak loudly. Sometimes you did not speak at all. Still, environments shifted when you entered. People felt uneasy around you without knowing why. That is the effect of unhidden light in hidden places. Darkness recognized something in you before you fully recognized it yourself. That is why the pressure started early. The goal was always to discourage you before you could awaken, to exhaust you before you could understand your authority, to wound you before you could trust your calling. If darkness could convince you that you were the problem, you would dim your own light voluntarily. But you did not. Even in confusion, you remained searching. even in pain. You remained compassionate, even in disappointment. You remained willing to hope again. That persistence frustrated what tried to stop you. Because resilience rooted in faith cannot be easily destroyed. The opposition often came through people, not because they were the enemy, but because they were influenced by fear, insecurity, or unresolved wounds. Your clarity confronted their chaos. Your boundaries challenged their control. Your growth exposed their stagnation. So resistance manifested as criticism, exclusion, or misrepresentation. That does not mean you failed. It means your light was doing its work. The ancient words recorded in the Gospel of John speak plainly to this reality. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Notice that the darkness did not overcome the light. It tried to surround it. It tried to confuse it. It tried to intimidate it. But it could not extinguish it. Light does not negotiate with darkness. It does not ask permission. It simply shines. And in doing so, it reveals truth. This is why you were often placed in difficult environments. You were not there by mistake. You were there as contrast. You carried standards where compromise was normal. You carried sincerity where performance was expected. You carried depth where surface-level living was celebrated. That contrast made others uncomfortable, not because you were wrong, but because you were different. You may have questioned yourself during those seasons. You may have wondered if being less would make life easier, if softening your convictions would reduce resistance, if hiding your heart would protect you. But something in you refused to fully dim. Even when you tried to shrink, your spirit resisted confinement because you were not designed for invisibility. The attacks were meant to teach you fear. Instead, they taught you discernment. They taught you how to recognize manipulation, how to sense false alignment, and how to trust God over appearances. You learned when to speak and when to stay silent. You learned when to stand firm and when to step away. These were not defensive skills. They were leadership skills. Now, with clearer vision, you can see that the darkness never truly had power over you. It only had access to your perception. Once you understand who you are and why you carry light, the intimidation loses its effect. You stop personalizing resistance. You stop internalizing rejection. You stop questioning your value every time opposition appears. Because you understand this truth, darkness targets light, not because it is stronger, but because it is threatened. And you are still here, still shining, still becoming. That alone is evidence that what was sent to stop you has failed. You no longer ask why resistance followed you. You understand now it was confirmation, not contradiction. Every attack exposed the value of what you carried and revealed that your light was already visible in unseen realms. With this awareness, fear loosens its grip. You stop shrinking in unfamiliar spaces and stop apologizing for clarity. Confidence rises quietly, rooted not in pride, but in understanding your spiritual position. You begin to move with intention instead of reaction. Where you once braced for impact, you now walk forward steady, discerning when to engage and when to remain silent without losing your authority. The darkness you faced sharpened your vision. You can now see through appearances, recognize motives, and sense shifts before words are spoken. This discernment is not suspicion, it is wisdom earned. Now your light is no longer just something you carry. It becomes something you steward. You protect it, direct it, and release it with purpose, knowing it was refined through opposition, not diminished by it. You move forward grounded and unafraid, aware that your light does not need permission to exist. What once challenged you now confirms your growth, and every step ahead is taken with clarity, restraint, and quiet authority. This is the moment you stop drifting between awareness and action. Not rushed, not forced, simply awakened. There comes a point when staying half asleep costs more than standing fully present, and you are standing at that threshold now. You have sensed it building an inner nudge, a quiet insistence that something must change. Not outside first, but within. You have outgrown the version of yourself that survived by shrinking. You have learned enough, endured enough, and healed enough to recognize that delay is no longer protection. It has become hesitation, and hesitation slowly dims what was meant to shine freely. This is not condemnation, and this is clarity. Awakening is rarely dramatic. It does not always arrive with thunder. Often, it comes like morning light through a window, soft, steady, undeniable. You notice what you can no longer tolerate. You feel discomfort in places that once felt familiar. You begin to sense that comfort without purpose is no longer enough, as Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 16. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Notice the instruction is not to create light, but to let it shine. The light already exists within you. What has been required of you is permission, your own permission to stop hiding it behind fear, modesty, or past disappointment. Waking up means allowing what God placed inside you to finally have expression. If these words are helping you see more clearly, take a gentle moment to like this message and share it. Think of it as opening a window so light can reach someone else who is still sitting in the dark, waiting without knowing why. If you feel peace here and want to continue walking this path together, you are welcome to subscribe, not to follow a voice, but to stay near a stream that refreshes you when the road feels long. And if, in your heart, you sense a quiet nudge to understand this clearly, donating here is like leaving oil beside a lamp you did not build, but that helped you see. You are not paying for the light. You are simply helping it remain lit for the next traveler. There is no obligation, no expectation, no judgment. Some give by listening, some give by sharing, some give by supporting quietly in the background. All are equal, all are seen. Awakening also means recognizing that what feeds your spirit is worth sustaining, not out of fear that it will disappear, but out of reverence for what is bearing fruit. When something nourishes you, you naturally want it to remain alive, not just for yourself, but for others you may never meet. So move gently here, with freedom, with discernment, with peace. The call to wake up is not loud because it does not need to be. You already hear it. And now, you are learning how to respond not from pressure, but from purpose. You do not need to rush this awakening. Light grows steadily, not violently. Each step you take with awareness strengthens your footing and aligns you more deeply with the purpose unfolding ahead of you. What is opening now is not chaos, but clarity. You begin to recognize which voices matter and which no longer deserve access to your spirit. Discernment becomes your compass, guiding you without fear or confusion. You will notice your energy shifting. Things that once drained you lose their hold. Conversations change. Priorities rearrange themselves naturally, without force. This is alignment taking place quietly, internally, and with lasting effect. Peace becomes your confirmation, not excitement, not noise, but a grounded sense of rightness. Even when the path ahead is unfamiliar, your spirit remains calm because it recognizes the direction. You start to trust your inner knowing again. Not impulsively, but with maturity. Experience has taught you to listen carefully, wait wisely, and move only when conviction settles, not when pressure demands action. As you continue, you carry compassion without carrying burdens that are not yours. Boundaries no longer feel like walls, but like doors you choose when to open and when to close. This season marks a turning point. You are no longer waking up to who you are learning how to live from that awareness, steadily, faithfully, and without needing constant reassurance. You begin to move with intention rather than urgency. Each decision is filtered through wisdom gained from experience, allowing you to advance without anxiety, trusting that steady steps carry more power than hurried leaps. Your voice settles into quiet authority. You no longer need to prove what you know or defend who you are. Presence speaks for you, and authenticity becomes the language others recognize and respect. What lies ahead will meet you prepared. The growth taking place now is aligning you with opportunities that match your depth, ensuring that what comes next is not only attainable, but sustainable. This Christmas is not marked by coincidence, it is marked by intention. While the world rushes through familiar rituals, heaven has slowed time around you. There is a stillness beneath the noise, a sacred pause where something is being placed into your hands not physically, but spiritually. This is not a season you simply pass through. It is a moment that passes into you. You may have felt it already, a quiet awareness that this Christmas feels different. Less about excitement, more about meaning. Less about what is missing, more about what is being entrusted. God often chooses ordinary seasons to deliver extraordinary assignments because only the attentive will notice. And you have been paying attention. What is being marked right now is not your calendar, but your spirit. Heaven is acknowledging readiness, not perfection, not completion. Readiness. You have reached a place where you can receive without misusing, carry without corrupting, and steward without losing yourself. That is why this gift could not arrive earlier. This is a Christmas of alignment. In the past, you asked God for clarity. Now He is giving you confirmation. You asked for direction. Now He is giving you positioning. You asked for relief. Now He is giving you strength that lasts beyond circumstances. The gift of light being offered is not temporary inspiration, it is sustained illumination. Heaven speaks clearly through the words recorded in the Gospel of Luke. Chapter 2, verse 11. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is Christ the Lord. Notice the phrase unto you, not to the powerful and not to the perfect, to those who were watching, waiting, and willing. Shepherds, not kings, were first to receive the announcement. Those awake in the night were trusted with the message. And in the same way, this gift is being entrusted to you because you stayed awake through dark seasons. This light does not come to decorate your life, it comes to direct it. You are being marked for clarity where confusion once ruled, for peace where anxiety once lingered, for discernment where doubt once spoke loudly. This is not about becoming someone else. It is about becoming fully who you already are, without fragmentation, without apology. Christmas reminds the world that God enters quietly. No force, no spectacle, just presence. And that is how this gift arrives gently, but decisively. Once received, it changes how you see everything. Familiar paths look different. Old fears lose authority. You begin to sense where to go and where not to return. This is also a moment of separation, not from people, but from patterns. You will feel less pull toward what once distracted you, less tolerance for what drains you, less interest in proving anything. Light simplifies. It narrows focus. It clarifies priority. Do not rush to explain what you feel. Let it settle. Let it anchor. Gifts from God deepen over time. They do not expire quickly. This one will unfold in layers, first understanding, then confidence, then quiet authority. And now seal this marking. At the end of this message, comment the number 888. This number represents new alignment, divine order, and what is set into motion by heaven, not human effort. When you write it, you are not performing for others. You are acknowledging before God and yourself that you recognize this Christmas as a turning point. Not every gift comes wrapped. Some come revealed, and this one was always meant for you. When you write 888, you are not marking a habit or following a trend. You are acknowledging a spiritual alignment that has been forming quietly over time. This number represents completion of preparation and the beginning of ordered movement. It signals that what was scattered is now coming into structure, and what felt delayed is now positioned to move with purpose. 888 also speaks of balance restored. It reflects the realignment of mind, spirit, and direction. By commenting it, you are affirming that you are ready to move forward without internal conflict. You are choosing clarity over confusion and intention over impulse, allowing God's timing to replace personal striving. When heaven sees 888, it recognizes consent. Not a loud declaration, but a settled agreement. It says you are willing to receive guidance without needing constant reassurance. It marks a posture of trust, one that allows God to lead without resistance or fear shaping your decisions. This act is not about the number itself, but about awareness. 888 becomes a reminder to you in the days ahead. When doubt tries to return, you will remember that this moment mattered, that alignment was acknowledged, and that you chose to recognize what God was doing rather than dismiss it. By writing 888, you are closing one internal chapter and opening another. You are no longer waiting for permission to step forward. You are moving with understanding, steadiness, and peace, allowing the light given this Christmas to guide your path forward. What you are receiving is not what you expected, and that is intentional. If the gift had arrived in a form you could predict, you might have tried to control it, compare it, or measure it against what others received. But God is not interested in feeding expectations shaped by the world. He is interested in restoring what was lost before you even realized it was missing. You may have thought the breakthrough would look like relief and external change that removed pressure or answered every question at once. Instead, what is being given is internal authority, a settled knowing, a clarity that does not shout but does not waver. This gift works from the inside out because only inward alignment can sustain outward responsibility. Many people seek blessing without responsibility. You are being trusted with both. Authority does not announce itself loudly. It shows up as restraint when you could react, wisdom when you could rush, and peace when circumstances try to provoke fear. This is the kind of authority that does not dominate others but governs the self. And self-governance is the foundation of all lasting influence. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 20. For the kingdom of God does not consist in talk, but in power. Power in this sense is not spectacle. It is alignment with truth. It is the ability to remain steady when pressure increases. It is choosing obedience when shortcuts are available. It is holding your ground without needing to raise your voice. This is the power now being entrusted to you. You may notice changes already. Your reactions are slower. Your discernment is sharper. What once confused you now feels transparent. You are less impressed by appearance and more attentive to substance. This is not cynicism. It is maturity. The gift you are receiving will not draw attention to itself. In fact, it may make you more comfortable operating quietly. You will feel less need to explain yourself, less need to defend your decisions, less need to be understood by everyone. Authority rooted in God does not depend on public validation. This also means you will become more selective, not because you are closed off, but because you are responsible. You understand that access has influence, and influence must be stewarded carefully. You will choose depth over breadth. Fewer words, greater impact. Fewer connections, greater alignment. There may be moments when you wonder if something is missing because the gift does not look impressive on the surface. Resist that thought. The most valuable tools are often unassuming. They work quietly, consistently, and effectively over time. This gift is designed to last, not to impress. You are also being released from the need to strive for position. When authority is given by God, you do not chase platforms. You become stable enough for platforms to find you. And when they do, you are not shaken by attention because your identity was settled long before recognition arrived. This gift will also protect you. It will warn you before danger fully appears. It will slow you down when speed would cost you peace. It will nudge you away from conversations that would drain you and towards spaces that strengthen you. This is not control. It is guidance. You are not receiving something to consume. You are receiving something to steward. And stewardship requires patience, humility, and consistency. You are being trusted because you have learned how to carry weight without being ruled by it. As this understanding settles, you may realize that what you asked God for in the past has been answered, just not in the form you imagined. You asked for change. He gave you authority. You asked for answers. He gave you discernment. You asked for peace. He gave you alignment. And alignment changes everything. You will walk differently, speak differently, decide differently, not because you are trying to be spiritual, but because you are now anchored. This gift is not temporary. It will grow as you use it faithfully. What you are receiving is not what you expected. It is better. It is deeper. And it was chosen specifically for you. As this authority settles into your daily life, you will notice how naturally it integrates with ordinary moments. Small decisions begin to reflect deeper wisdom, and quiet consistency replaces urgency. You no longer rush outcomes because trust has reshaped how you measure progress. This gift also refines your listening. You become more attentive to subtle signals, tone, timing, and inner restraint. Discernment grows not through suspicion but through alignment. You sense when to advance and when to pause, conserving energy for what truly matters. Over time, others will feel this shift without needing explanation. Your presence becomes grounding. Conversations slow. Tension eases. This is not influence you perform, but influence you carry, formed by integrity, patience, and an authority that flows from inner clarity rather than control. For a long time, you carried a quiet question in your spirit: am I truly worthy? You may not have said it out loud, but it surfaced in subtle ways: hesitation before stepping forward, guilt when good things arrived, the instinct to explain yourself when you should have simply received. This question did not come from God. It was planted by years of misunderstanding grace. You were taught, directly or indirectly, that worthiness had to be proven, that love was conditional, that acceptance came after performance. So you learned to overfunction, to overgive, to overthink. You measured yourself by effort, endurance, and sacrifice, believing that if you did enough, you would finally qualify for rest, joy, or peace. But worthiness was never the requirement. Grace does not respond to effort. It responds to humility. And humility is not thinking less of yourself, it is agreeing with God about who you are. The exhaustion you felt did not come from carrying responsibility. It came from carrying a false belief that you had to earn what God was always willing to give. This is why receiving felt harder than giving. Giving allowed you to stay in control. Receiving required trust, and trust exposes where you still believe love might be withdrawn if you are not careful enough. God is dismantling that belief now. You were not chosen because you were flawless. You were chosen because you were willing. Willing to listen, willing to grow, willing to stay soft in a world that rewards hardness. Grace is not a reward for the strong. It is strength given to the surrendered. When you understand this, something shifts. You stop apologizing for taking up space. You stop shrinking your joy to make others comfortable. You stop questioning whether blessings will be taken away. You begin to rest, not because life is easy, but because your standing with God is settled. The ancient words recorded in the letter to the Ephesians, chapter 2, verse 8. For by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not your own doing. It is the gift of God. A gift is not negotiated, it is received. You were never meant to drag yourself to God exhausted and ashamed. You were meant to come honestly, with questions, with wounds, with uncertainty. Grace does not require you to be ready. It makes you ready. And the sooner you accept this, the sooner striving loses its grip. This does not make you passive. It makes you anchored. When you know you are already accepted, obedience becomes lighter. You stop obeying out of fear and start responding out of love. Discipline becomes devotion. Consistency becomes joy. You may notice resistance rising as this truth settles. Old voices, internal or external, may remind you of past mistakes, missed opportunities, or unfinished growth. But grace does not erase responsibility. It repositions it. You grow not to be accepted, but because you are accepted. This changes how you see your past. Instead of proof of failure, it becomes evidence of patience. God did not abandon you in your immaturity. He walked with you through it. He waited for your understanding to catch up with His commitment. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not disqualified. The feeling of unworthiness often hides a deeper fear. What if I receive and lose it? Grace answers that fear too. What God gives by grace, He sustains by grace. You are not holding yourself together by effort alone. You are being held. As this settles, you may feel a release, sometimes subtle, sometimes emotional, a loosening of internal pressure, a permission to breathe fully for the first time in a long while. This is not weakness. This is healing. You are allowed to enjoy what God gives you. You are allowed to rest without guilt. You are allowed to trust that good things are not traps. Grace teaches you how to live from fullness instead of lack. And from that place, your light becomes gentler but stronger, less reactive, more consistent, more real. Worthiness was never the question. Grace answered it before you asked. As grace settles deeper, you begin to notice how differently you relate to God. Prayer feels less like persuasion and more like presence. You no longer approach Him with a list of proofs, but with honesty, knowing you are already welcomed. This shift also changes how you see yourself. Mistakes no longer define you, and growth no longer feels like punishment. You allow yourself to learn without shame, trusting that transformation is a process guided by patience, not pressure. You become gentler with your limits. Rest no longer feels like failure, and saying no longer carries guilt. You understand that stewardship includes caring for your soul, not just fulfilling responsibilities or expectations. From this place of acceptance, your light flows naturally, not strained, not forced, simply present. Grace stabilizes you, and stability allows you to become a source of calm, truth, and quiet strength for others. Every awakening eventually brings you to a choice, not a dramatic one on the surface, but a decisive one in the spirit. This is that moment. You have received understanding. You have been given clarity. You have been released from false guilt and quiet striving. Now the question is no longer what do you know? The question is what will you choose? Because awareness without decision becomes delay. You are standing at a crossroads that looks ordinary to anyone else, but sacred to you. One path leads back to what is familiar patterns you have outgrown. Comfort that costs you peace. Cycles that feel safe because they are known. The other path leads forward into responsibility, visibility, and alignment that will require courage and consistency. Both paths are available. Only one leads to growth. This is not about perfection. It is about direction. Choosing the crown does not mean choosing ego or superiority. It means choosing responsibility over avoidance. It means choosing obedience over convenience. It means accepting that you were trusted with insight not just to feel comforted, but to live changed. A crown in spiritual terms represents stewardship. It represents authority that is exercised through humility, not dominance. There were seasons when hesitation protected you, when waiting was wisdom. But this is no longer that season. What once guarded you will now restrict you if you cling to it. Delay here is not neutral, it is costly. Not because God will withdraw, but because you will remain divided. Indecision drains more energy than commitment. You have felt this tension already. The pull between stepping fully into what you sense is required of you and the temptation to remain half committed, half aware, half available. But there is no peace in halves. Peace comes when alignment is complete. The ancient words recorded in the book of Joshua, chapter 24, verse 15. Choose this day whom you will serve. This was not spoken to strangers. It was spoken to people who already knew God. And still, they had to choose. Knowing is not the same as committing. Belief is not the same as obedience. Respect is not the same as surrender. You are not being rushed, but you are being invited to be honest. Honest about what you are willing to release. Honest about what you are ready to carry. Honest about whether you want comfort more than calling. Choosing the crown means you stop negotiating with fear. It means you no longer wait for perfect confidence before acting. Confidence grows after obedience, not before. You move because you trust God, not because you feel fully prepared. This choice will simplify your life. It may not make it easier immediately, but it will make it clearer. Clear boundaries, clear priorities, clear direction. You will stop revisiting decisions that were already settled. You will stop reopening doors that God already closed for your protection. You may lose some familiarity. Some relationships may shift. Some versions of yourself will not come with you. But what you gain will be alignment, integrity, and a peace that does not depend on approval. This is also the moment where excuses lose credibility. You can no longer say you didn't know. You can no longer say you weren't sure. Light has clarified too much, and clarity always asks for response. Choosing forward does not mean you never struggle again. It means you struggle with purpose. It means even your challenges are aligned with growth, not confusion. It means your efforts are no longer scattered. Before you continue, seal this decision with a simple declaration. The comment I choose forward, this is not a slogan. It is a direction. It says you are no longer circling the same questions, revisiting the same doubts, or postponing the same obedience. It marks a turning point from awareness into action, from hesitation into alignment. You are not choosing pressure. You are choosing clarity, so you are not choosing perfection. You are choosing direction. And that choice changes everything. When you write, "I choose forward," you are not claiming strength you do not have. You are acknowledging direction you are willing to take. This statement means you stop waiting to feel ready and begin trusting that readiness grows through obedience. "I choose forward" declares that familiarity no longer has authority over your decisions. It marks a willingness to leave cycles that once felt safe but no longer serve who you are becoming. It is a conscious break from stagnation. By commenting, "I choose forward," you are accepting responsibility for what you now know. Light has clarified too much for you to return to unawareness. This choice signals maturity, the understanding that growth requires participation, not just reflection. This declaration also realigns your inner posture. You stop negotiating with fear and stop delaying alignment. Forward does not mean reckless movement. It means intentional progress guided by conviction rather than comfort. When heaven sees "I choose forward," it recognizes agreement, not perfection, but commitment. This moment becomes a reference point you can return to, reminding yourself that you chose clarity over hesitation and purpose over familiarity. There are moments when mercy speaks softly, not with thunder, not with warning sirens, but with a gentle restraint in your spirit, a hesitation before a wrong turn, a discomfort that cannot be ignored, a quiet inner voice saying, "Wait." Many mistake this softness for weakness. In truth, it is one of the strongest expressions of God's love. Mercy does not shout because it is not trying to scare you. It is trying to guide you. You have felt it before. That pause before reacting, that unease before saying yes too quickly, that inner resistance when something looked right on the surface but felt wrong beneath. These were not interruptions. They were invitations to slow down, to listen, to choose wisely before momentum carried you somewhere costly. Delayed obedience does not always look like rebellion. Sometimes it looks like procrastination, like waiting for a better time, like telling yourself you will respond when things feel clearer or easier. But clarity often comes after obedience, not before it. And mercy, when ignored repeatedly, does not disappear, but it steps back. Not because God withdraws love, but because He honors choice. The ancient words recorded in the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 3, verse 15. Today, if you hear His voice, do not harden your hearts. Hardening does not happen suddenly. It happens gradually, through small delays, through repeated rationalizations, through convincing yourself that later will be safer than now. Mercy speaks early, so discipline does not have to speak loudly. This message is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to steady you. You are not being rushed into panic. You are being invited into awareness. Awareness that timing matters, that response matters, that softness of heart is something to protect, not postpone. Think of mercy like morning fog on a road. It slows you down so you do not drive off a cliff you cannot yet see. If you respect it, it keeps you safe. If you ignore it long enough, visibility does not improve, danger increases. This is why you are being reminded now, not later, not after damage. Now, while the door is still open, while choice is still gentle, while direction can still be adjusted without loss. If this message resonates, take a moment to like it and share it, not out of obligation, but as a quiet way of passing along a warning wrapped in care. Someone else may need this reminder before they mistake silence for permission. And if you find yourself returning to this space, finding clarity here, You are welcome to subscribe. Think of it not as following a channel, but as choosing to walk a familiar path where your spirit has already found footing. Now hear this with peace. Every place of guidance needs tending. Every lamp that stays lit requires unseen care. If you feel led, only if you feel led to donate, understand it like this: it is like placing stones along a mountain trail you once stumbled through. You are not paying for direction. You are helping mark the path so others do not lose their way. Some give time, some give attention, some give resources. All are acts of partnership, never obligation. What matters is the heart free, willing, and at peace. Mercy is beautiful because it is voluntary. It never forces. It invites. And so does giving. It is not demanded. It is offered freely, like water to someone who has already tasted thirst. As you continue, stay attentive to that soft voice. It is not weakness. It is protection. It is God caring enough to guide you before correction becomes necessary. Choosing to listen now preserves peace later. You are not being condemned. You are being cared for. And when mercy speaks softly, wisdom leans in close enough to hear it. When you honor that quiet warning, life begins to feel less chaotic. You notice fewer regrets and fewer recoveries needed. Listening early saves you from repairing later. And peace becomes something you protect intentionally, not something you chase after damage. Mercy also teaches patience. It reminds you that not every opportunity requires an immediate answer. Waiting can be obedience, and restraint can be wisdom when guided by discernment rather than fear or hesitation. As you practice listening, your inner world grows calmer. Decisions feel cleaner. You stop carrying the weight of rushed choices. Clarity replaces confusion, and trust replaces the anxiety of always needing certainty first. You become more responsive than reactive. Instead of being driven by pressure, you move with purpose. This shift is subtle but powerful, changing how you approach relationships, commitments, and the pace of your daily life. Over time, this attentiveness reshapes your future. Paths narrow, but direction strengthens. What you avoid becomes as meaningful as what you pursue, and mercy proves itself not as restriction, but as quiet preservation. You carry this preservation forward with gratitude, understanding that every moment of restraint protected something valuable. What unfolds next will be shaped not by impulse, but by wisdom formed through listening, patience, and the courage to honor mercy when it whispered. Light does not arrive without responsibility. The moment illumination enters your life, neutrality disappears. You begin to see more clearly, and with clarity comes accountability. Not a heavy burden meant to crush you, but an invitation to live with intention. Light changes how you walk, how you speak, and how you choose because you can no longer claim you did not see. Responsibility is often misunderstood as restriction. In truth, it is refinement. It narrows your focus so your energy is no longer wasted. It teaches you to choose depth over distraction, integrity over impulse, and truth over convenience. When you carry light, you do not have the luxury of living carelessly, not because God is harsh, but because your life now carries influence. You may notice this shift already. Things you once tolerated now disturb you. Words you once ignored now carry weight. Choices that once felt harmless now demand discernment. This is not loss of freedom. It is maturity taking shape, as Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew on chapter 5, verse 14. You are the light of the world. Notice the statement is not conditional. It does not say you might become the light. It says you are. Light reveals by its very presence. Even when silent, it influences, Even when small, it alters the environment. That is why responsibility follows illumination so closely. You are no longer only accountable for your intentions, but for your impact. This awareness can feel uncomfortable at first. It exposes inconsistencies. It highlights areas where growth is still needed, but it also brings dignity. You are being trusted to live in a way that reflects truth, not perfection. Living responsibly does not mean becoming rigid or joyless. It means learning when to engage and when to withdraw, when to speak and when to remain quiet, when to carry and when to release. You begin to understand that saying no can be an act of love, and restraint can be a form of protection. Light also activates discernment. You become more selective about what you allow into your inner world. Media, conversations, relationships, and environments are no longer neutral. You recognize that everything you consume shapes something within you. Responsibility teaches you to guard your peace without isolating yourself. This season may feel more intentional and less spontaneous, but it will also feel more grounded. You will notice that your joy deepens, even if your life becomes simpler. Light clarifies priorities. It strips away excess so what truly matters can stand. You may also feel the weight of being observed not in a performative way, but in a relational one. Others watch how you respond under pressure, how you handle disagreement, how you treat those with less influence. This is not about image. It is about consistency. Light reveals authenticity. Responsibility does not mean you never struggle. It means you struggle honestly. You no longer hide behind excuses or denial. You bring your weakness into the light, where healing can occur. Accountability becomes a gift, not a threat. You are also learning that responsibility includes rest. Light that burns without care eventually dims. Stewardship means pacing yourself, honoring limits, and allowing renewal. You are not meant to carry everything alone. Seeking support is not failure, it is wisdom. As this understanding matures, you become dependable not just to others but to yourself. You trust your own decisions more because they are rooted in values rather than emotion. Integrity becomes your default, not your effort. Light does not ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be honest, attentive, and willing. And as you live this way, your life becomes a quiet reference point for others, not because you announce it, but because truth naturally draws those who are searching. Responsibility, when embraced, does not limit your life. It expands its meaning, and meaning sustains light far longer than enthusiasm ever could. As you grow comfortable with responsibility, fear loosens its grip. You realize you are not being watched to be judged, but trusted to be faithful. This understanding brings freedom, not pressure, and steadies your confidence. You begin to notice how responsibility sharpens your compassion. You listen more carefully, respond more thoughtfully, and act with awareness of how your choices affect others, without losing yourself in their expectations. With time, integrity becomes instinctive. You no longer debate what aligns with truth. Decisions simplify because values are clear, and clarity removes the exhaustion of constant inner negotiation. You also learn when to step back. Responsibility includes knowing when rest is required and when silence speaks louder than action. Wisdom grows in the spaces where restraint is honored. This season strengthens your foundation. What you are building now may look quiet, but it is durable. Light anchored in responsibility does not flicker under pressure. It endures with steady presence. You carry this steadiness forward, aware that lasting influence grows from consistency, not intensity. Each faithful choice reinforces the light within you, ensuring it remains reliable, grounded, and capable of guiding others without demanding attention. There are moments when the unseen draws closer, not because something dramatic is happening outwardly, but because alignment has been reached inwardly. You may not hear wings or feel a sudden rush, yet movement begins in realms you cannot measure. This is how heaven often responds, not to noise, but to agreement. When you said yes in your spirit, even quietly, something shifted. Not everything changed at once, but direction did. Alignment activates assistance, and assistance does not always announce itself. It supports, redirects, and protects in ways you only recognize later. You are not walking alone, even when the path feels solitary. There have been times when things worked out that should not have, delays that prevented harm, conversations that shifted at the last moment, strength that appeared when you were certain you had none left. These were not coincidences. They were responses. Heaven moves when the heart aligns, not when circumstances look perfect. Angels do not respond to ambition, they respond to obedience. The unseen realm is not impressed by volume, but by sincerity. When you choose integrity over impulse, clarity over chaos, and patience over pressure, alignment forms. And where alignment exists, support is released. The apostle reminds us in the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 1, verse 14. Are they not all ministering spirits sent out to serve for the sake of those who are to inherit salvation? Notice the word sent. That implies direction, purpose, and timing. Heaven does not move randomly. It moves intentionally. And when your yes aligns with God's will, assistance is not forced, it is dispatched. You may not see angels, but you feel their effect. A calm that makes no sense. A door closing without regret. A redirection that saves you from unnecessary loss. These are signs of alignment, not imagination. This does not mean life becomes effortless. It means you are no longer carrying everything alone. Support does not remove responsibility. It strengthens your ability to carry it wisely. You still choose. You still decide. But you do so with help you cannot manufacture on your own. This is why your yes matters. Every time you choose truth when compromise would be easier, alignment deepens. Every time you pause instead of reacting, support increases. Every time you trust God beyond logic, heaven leans in closer. Not because you earned it, but because you agreed with what was already offered. You are learning to cooperate, not strive. Angelic assistance often shows up as order, as timing, as protection you only understand in hindsight. You will look back one day and realize how many things never reached you because they were intercepted. How many wrong turns were gently blocked. How many burdens were lightened without explanation. This is not favoritism, it is positioning. When you walk in alignment, you are easier to guide. Less resistance means less correction. Less chaos means clearer direction. Heaven moves efficiently where the heart is willing. Do not chase signs, remain aligned. Your awareness is enough. Your obedience is enough. Your openness is enough. Assistance follows agreement naturally, just as shadow follows form. And now mark this moment of alignment. At the end of this message, comment the number 444. This number represents stability, divine order, and heavenly support surrounding what has been aligned on earth. By writing it, you are acknowledging that you are not alone, that support has been activated, and that you are choosing to remain positioned rather than pressured. You do not need to see everything to trust this. You only need to remain aligned. Heaven moves with your yes. When you write 404, you are acknowledging structure where there once was uncertainty. This number reflects foundations being set in place internally and spiritually. It is a signal that your life is entering a season where stability matters more than speed. and alignment matters more than appearance, or than 444 also represents support that is steady, not dramatic. By commenting it, you affirm that you are surrounded by guidance you may not see but can trust. It speaks of order replacing confusion and protection being active even when circumstances feel ordinary. This declaration is not about superstition. It is about awareness. 444 becomes a personal reminder that heaven responds to cooperation. When doubt rises, you remember that assistance was already activated, and you chose to remain positioned rather than anxious. By writing 444, you mark a commitment to stay aligned. You are choosing consistency over impulse and faithfulness over urgency. This moment becomes a reference point, reminding you that support grows where trust and obedience quietly remain. When you comment 444, you are confirming that you accept stability over chaos. It reflects a willingness to build slowly, trust the process, and remain grounded while unseen support continues working on your behalf. 444 also reminds you that consistency is powerful. Small, faithful choices create lasting order. This number becomes a quiet anchor, calling you back to alignment whenever distraction or impatience tries to pull you away. By writing 444, you acknowledge that you are supported, guided, and not alone. It seals your agreement to walk forward with steadiness, trusting that what is being built now is secure and enduring. At some point, without announcement or intention, your life begins to speak. Not through declarations, not through explanations, but through presence. You do not wake up one day deciding to become a sign to others. It happens gradually, as alignment settles and consistency forms. People notice not because you demand attention, but because something about you feels anchored. A sign is not a spectacle, it is a reference point. You carry a steadiness that contrasts with chaos. You respond with restraint where others react impulsively. You choose clarity where others choose convenience. These choices are quiet, but they are visible. And over time, they become a testimony that words could never replicate. You may not realize how often others watch you, not with judgment, but with curiosity. They notice how you navigate pressure, how you speak when emotions run high, how you remain grounded when outcomes are uncertain. You do not need to persuade them. Your consistency does the work. This is how light spreads most effectively. People are not drawn to perfection. They are drawn to authenticity anchored in peace. They recognize something real when they see it, and when they encounter it in you, it awakens questions within themselves. Not questions you have to answer, but questions that invite them to seek truth. You become proof that alignment is possible, that integrity is sustainable, that faith can exist without performance, that healing does not erase scars, but transforms them into wisdom. This does not mean you are always understood. Some will misinterpret your restraint as distance, your boundaries as judgment, your silence as indifference. But those who are searching will sense the difference. They will recognize that your life carries coherence, that your values and actions are aligned. The prophet Isaiah spoke of this kind of witness, recorded in sacred scripture, chapter 43, verse 10. "You are my witnesses, declares the Lord." A witness does not argue. A witness lives truthfully and allows truth to speak for itself. You are becoming a living reminder that peace does not come from control, that joy does not require constant excitement, and that purpose does not demand visibility. Your life demonstrates what happens when someone chooses alignment repeatedly, even when no one is watching. This role is not glamorous. It is not always comfortable. Being a sign means you are sometimes held to higher standards, not by God, but by observers who project expectations onto you. You may feel pressure to represent something perfectly. But remember this, you are not responsible for others' projections. You are responsible for your own faithfulness. Your humanity does not disqualify you, it strengthens your witness. When you admit weakness without shame, you show others that growth is possible. When you apologize sincerely, you model accountability. When you choose patience under stress, you demonstrate trust. These moments are far more impactful than polished words. You may never know how many lives are affected by your presence. Some seeds grow quietly. Some encouragements surface years later. Some observations never become conversations. But the influence remains. Being a sign does not mean you withdraw from the world. It means you engage without being absorbed. You stay present without becoming reactive. You listen without carrying what is not yours. This balance is rare, and that rarity makes it noticeable. You are also learning when not to speak. Silence, when rooted in discernment, can be a powerful signal. It shows that wisdom does not need to dominate space, that truth can wait for the right moment, that not every question requires an immediate answer. As you continue, your life becomes an invitation rather than an argument. People feel safer around you. Conversations slow down. Defensiveness softens. Not because you try to change anyone, but because your steadiness creates room for honesty. This is how you become a sign, by living congruently. You do not carry light to expose others, but to illuminate paths. And illumination does not force direction. It simply reveals what is already there. Those who are ready will see. Those who are not will still be affected, even if they cannot name why. Your task is not to measure impact. It is to remain aligned. As long as you continue choosing integrity over image, truth over comfort, and faithfulness over approval, your life will continue to speak, quietly, clearly, reliably. And that kind of witness endures far longer than any words ever could. You remain faithful in small, unseen moments, understanding that consistency shapes credibility. Your life becomes a steady signal, reminding others that truth can be lived without noise, and purpose can unfold without constant explanation. Over time, this quiet witness creates ripples beyond your awareness. Hearts soften, questions awaken, and courage grows in places you may never visit. Your obedience plants seeds that take root in timing you do not control. So you continue forward without striving to be noticed. Alignment remains your priority, and faithfulness your measure of success. In staying true, you allow your life to remain a sign, clear, grounded, and enduring. There is a cost to walking this path, and pretending otherwise would dishonor your discernment. You have already felt it, not as a single dramatic sacrifice, but as a series of quiet losses that accumulate over time. Relationships that faded, invitations that no longer felt right, versions of yourself that could not follow you forward. The cost is real, and you were never wrong for noticing it. What changes now is how you interpret that cost. Loss does not always mean punishment. Often it means refinement. When you walk in alignment, friction naturally increases with what is misaligned. This is not because you became difficult, distant, or proud. It is because clarity creates contrast, and contrast reveals what can no longer coexist. You did not lose people because you chose truth. You lost shared agreement with paths that were no longer yours. There is grief in that realization. Even when the separation is necessary, it still hurts. You remember laughter, shared history, and moments that were genuine. Walking forward does not erase what was real. It simply acknowledges what is no longer sustainable. And honoring that truth requires courage. The cost is also internal. You give up the relief of avoidance. You lose the comfort of pretending not to see. You release the option of numbing yourself when responsibility feels heavy. Awareness demands engagement. Light removes the excuse of ignorance. And while that can feel weighty, it is also what gives your life integrity. Integrity is expensive, but it pays dividends that comfort never could. There are moments when you may envy those who seem unburdened by depth, those who move quickly, decide impulsively, and live without wrestling with consequence. But what looks like freedom from a distance often hides deferred cost. You are paying attention now so you do not pay more later. This path requires restraint. It requires patience when shortcuts are available. It requires choosing what is right over what is immediately rewarding. That choice may not be applauded. It may not even be understood. But it builds something within you that cannot be taken. The ancient words recorded in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 25. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. This is not about destruction. It is about exchange. You are not losing yourself. You are losing what no longer fits who you are becoming. And in that exchange, you gain coherence. You gain peace that is not dependent on approval. You gain direction that is not constantly renegotiated. The cost also includes being misunderstood. People may assign motives you do not have. They may interpret your boundaries as rejection, your silence as arrogance, your growth as distance. You cannot control these interpretations. Trying to correct every misunderstanding would pull you back into explanation rather than alignment. Part of the cost is letting others be wrong about you. That does not mean you become cold or dismissive. It means you stop needing universal approval to validate obedience. You remain kind without being porous. You remain open without being unguarded. This balance is learned, not assumed. You may also experience moments of loneliness not because you are isolated, but because depth narrows company. Fewer people can walk with you when the conversation shifts from surface to substance. This narrowing is not meant to starve you. It is meant to strengthen connection where it exists. And then there is the reward. The reward is not always immediate. It does not arrive as applause or visible success. Often, it arrives as steadiness, as clarity, as the absence of regret, as the ability to sleep with a clear conscience, as the confidence that your choices are aligned, even when outcomes are still unfolding. You gain self-trust. You gain resilience that is not reactive. You gain peace that does not depend on circumstances behaving. You gain discernment that protects you from repeating cycles you worked hard to leave. These rewards are quiet, but they are enduring. You also gain capacity. Capacity to carry responsibility without resentment. Capacity to hold tension without panic. Capacity to influence without controlling. These are not traits that develop in comfort. They are formed through cost willingly paid. There will be moments when you question whether the price is too high. That is not failure. That is honesty. When those moments come, remember this: you are not paying to suffer. You are investing to become. Nothing you release in alignment is wasted. It either returns transformed or creates space for something better suited to who you are now. God does not extract cost without purpose. He honors every sacrifice made in truth. You are not walking away from life. You are walking into it more fully. The cost is real, but so is the reward. And the reward is not shallow, fleeting, or fragile. It is rooted, sustaining, and quietly powerful. What you are building now may not be visible to many, but it is visible where it matters. And it will hold when lesser foundations crack. The cost is worth it, Not because it is easy, but because it is true. Now you stand differently, not louder, not higher, just steadier. Authority has settled into you the way roots settle into soil unseen, but undeniable. You are no longer asking for permission to be who you are. You are no longer negotiating with doubt every time clarity appears. You are learning how to stand without apology. Authority does not rush. It does not need to announce itself. It carries weight because it is anchored. And what anchors you now is not confidence borrowed from success, but confidence formed through obedience, restraint, and truth lived consistently. You have learned that authority is not about control. It is about responsibility rightly carried. It is the ability to remain composed when challenged, to remain kind when misunderstood, and to remain aligned when pressure invites compromise. This is not weakness. It is mastery of the self. You no longer react to every provocation. You choose your battles carefully. Silence has become a tool, not a retreat. When you speak, your words land differently not because they are louder, but because they are measured. Authority sharpens discernment. This is the posture you were being prepared for, as was spoken by Jesus in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, verse 19. I have given you authority to overcome all the power of the enemy. Authority here is not dominance over others. It is dominion over fear, over impulse, over old patterns that once dictated your behavior. You are no longer governed by urgency or insecurity. You are governed by truth. Standing in authority also means accepting visibility without craving it. Some will notice the change. Some will be unsettled by it. Others will feel safer around you without knowing why. Your steadiness becomes a signal. You do not force direction. You provide reference. This is where leadership begins, not with title, but with presence. You are also learning that authority requires maintenance. Just as a lamp must be tended, clarity must be protected. You guard what you allow into your spirit. You choose nourishment over noise. You choose depth over distraction. These choices may look ordinary, but they are foundational. If this message feels like a confirmation rather than a surprise, allow it to move through you gently. If it resonates, imagine it like lighting a small torch and passing the flame forward. When you like this message and share it, you are not promoting words, you are extending warmth to someone who may still be walking in cold uncertainty. And if you find yourself returning here, drawing strength and clarity from this space, you are welcome to subscribe. Not as a follower to a voice, but as a traveler choosing a familiar path where the ground has proven steady. Now hear this with a calm heart. Every place that holds light requires tending. Not because it is fragile, but because it is valuable. If you feel moved, only if you feel moved to donate. Think of it like placing oil beside a lantern that helped you see the road more clearly. You are not paying for illumination. You are ensuring the flame remains for the next person who arrives after dusk. Some contribute by walking alongside, some by pointing others toward the light, some by quietly supporting what has helped them stand. All are voluntary, all are honorable, all are enough. Authority also means knowing when to invite participation without pressure. What is given freely carries no resentment. What is offered willingly carries peace, and peace is the atmosphere where light lasts. Before you continue, anchor this moment with a simple declaration. Comment, I stand firm. This is not defiance, it is alignment. It says you are no longer wavering between old fears and present clarity. You are rooted. You are steady. You are choosing to occupy the ground you were given without shrinking. You are not standing alone. You are not standing arrogantly, you are standing faithfully. And that is authority quiet, grounded, and enduring. Standing firm does not mean standing rigid. You remain responsive, teachable, and attentive, but no longer easily swayed. Your foundation holds because it was formed through truth lived over time, not through sudden emotion or borrowed conviction. From this place, your influence becomes steady rather than forceful. Others feel the difference when you enter a space, not because you demand attention, but because your presence carries calm, clarity, and quiet assurance shaped by consistency. As you move forward, you do so without haste. Authority now rests naturally on your life, expressed through humility and restraint. You are prepared to carry what comes next, rooted in peace, guided by discernment, and strengthened by alignment. You remain open without being unstable, confident without being hardened. Each step forward reflects balanced strength shaped by humility, and conviction guided by wisdom rather than impulse or fear. What lies ahead will require this steadiness. You are equipped to meet it, not with force, but with clarity. Your authority is now integrated, ready to be expressed through faithful action and measured trust. What you carry now does not end with you. This is one of the quiet truths that begins to surface as your understanding deepens. Your obedience has weight beyond your lifetime. Choices you make today echo forward, touching people you may never meet and shaping outcomes you will never personally witness. This is not pressure, it is significance. Legacy is often misunderstood as reputation or achievement. In reality, it is transmission. It is what moves through you and continues after you are gone. You are not merely living a personal story. You are influencing a line spiritual, emotional, and relational that stretches both backward and forward in time. You may already sense this when you look at your family history. Patterns that repeated, wounds that traveled quietly across generations, behaviors that were normalized because no one paused long enough to question them. Light interrupts those cycles. Awareness gives you the ability to choose differently, and choosing differently changes what is passed on. You are not just healing yourself, you are altering inheritance. This does not mean you carry the burden of fixing everything. It means your faithfulness matters more than you realize. When you choose truth over denial, you model courage. When you choose restraint over reaction, you model wisdom. When you choose healing over bitterness, you create permission for others to do the same. Even when no one acknowledges it, the shift occurs. The ancient words recorded in the book of Proverbs on chapter 20, verse 7. The righteous man walks in his integrity. Blessed are his children after him. Notice the simplicity of the statement. It does not say the righteous man explains everything perfectly. It does not say he avoids all failure. It says he walks in integrity, and that walk produces blessing beyond himself. Integrity creates continuity. It stabilizes what follows. You may never see the full effect of your obedience. That is not a flaw in the design. It is part of it. Seeds are not planted to admire the soil. They are planted to grow beyond the planter's timeline. Trusting this requires humility because it releases you from needing immediate confirmation. Your life is becoming a reference point, not because you demand attention, but because consistency leaves evidence. People may not remember your exact words, but they will remember how safe they felt around you. They will remember that you did not compromise when it would have been easier. They will remember that you chose presence over distraction and integrity over convenience. These memories shape future decisions. Legacy also shows up in restraint, in what you refuse to pass on, in the cycles you allow to end with you. Silence around trauma is replaced with honesty. Emotional avoidance is replaced with accountability. Fear-driven control is replaced with trust. These are not dramatic changes, but they are decisive ones. You are also learning that legacy does not require scale. It does not require a platform or recognition. It requires faithfulness. Quiet lives often carry the most enduring impact because they influence deeply rather than broadly. Your steadiness gives others permission to slow down. Your clarity gives others courage to question what they inherited. Your peace offers proof that healing is possible without erasing the past. This is how light outlives you. It embeds itself in decisions made years later. In boundaries someone chooses because they once watched you honor yours. In courage someone finds because they saw you endure without becoming hardened. In faith someone revisits because you lived it without performance. You may feel small in the moment. That does not mean you are insignificant. Most foundations are invisible once a structure stands. But without them, nothing holds. As you continue forward, remember this: nothing done in integrity disappears. It multiplies, it moves quietly, steadily, and faithfully into futures you cannot predict. You are not racing toward legacy. You are building it with every aligned choice. And what you are building now will speak long after your voice is silent. As this understanding settles, you begin to release the need to measure your life by immediate results. Faithfulness becomes your metric. You trust that what is done in truth carries its own momentum, even when outcomes remain unseen. This frees you from urgency and anchors you in steady, intentional living. You also become more mindful of what you allow to shape you. Words, habits, and relationships are chosen with care because you recognize their influence extends beyond the present moment. Legacy is formed not in grand gestures, but in repeated, faithful decisions that quietly accumulate over time. With this awareness, you walk forward unburdened by the need to control the future. You simply remain aligned today. And in doing so, you create space for what follows to be healthier, wiser, and more grounded than what came before. That is how legacy endures, through integrity lived consistently. You continue with quiet confidence, knowing that each faithful step contributes to something larger than yourself. What you are building will stand, not because it was rushed, but because it was rooted in truth, patience, and enduring purpose. This is the moment of receiving, not as an idea, not as a promise deferred, but as a settled reality. You are no longer reaching for the light as something distant. You are allowing it to rest within you, fully, without resistance. Receiving does not require effort. It requires openness. And openness is what you have been growing into all along. To receive is not passive. It is an act of trust. You have learned to let go of striving. You have released the need to qualify yourself through suffering or performance. You now understand that what is given by God is sustained by God. This realization changes how you hold everything else in your life. You stop gripping. You stop bracing for loss. You stop waiting for something to be taken away. Peace enters where fear once negotiated terms. Receiving the light means accepting clarity without asking it to explain itself repeatedly. It means allowing direction to form even when the entire path is not visible. Light rarely shows everything at once. It shows the next faithful step. And you are now steady enough to walk that way without demanding guarantees. This light also brings rest. Not the absence of responsibility, but the absence of inner resistance. You are no longer divided within yourself. What you believe and how you live are becoming aligned. That alignment reduces friction. It quiets anxiety. It allows joy to surface naturally. without being forced. This Christmas marks a transition not defined by emotion, but by settlement. Something has been decided internally. You are no longer questioning whether you are worthy to receive. You are no longer postponing trust. You are no longer waiting for a future version of yourself to arrive. You are here. The ancient words recorded in the letter of James, chapter 1, verse 17. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights. Notice the source. Light is not manufactured, but it is received, and what comes from the Father of lights carries consistency. It does not flicker. It does not deceive. It does not withdraw unexpectedly. It remains. Receiving this gift also reframes your future. You no longer approach what is ahead with dread or urgency. You approach it with readiness. Challenges may still appear, but they no longer threaten your identity. You know where your strength comes from. You know what anchors you. You know what matters. This light will guide your decisions, not overwhelm them. It will sharpen your discernment, not harden your heart. It will keep you responsive without making you reactive. It will help you walk through complexity without losing simplicity. You are not being sent back into life unchanged. You are being released forward with clarity. And as you move, you will notice something subtle but profound. Gratitude replaces striving. Not because everything is perfect, but because everything is purposeful. Even the unfinished pieces, even the unknowns, even the waiting that remains. Receiving does not end the journey. It establishes the posture with which you walk it. This Christmas, the gift of light is not something you display. It is something you live from. It shapes how you speak, how you choose, how you rest, and how you love. It does not demand attention. It draws it naturally, through authenticity. You are not required to explain what has changed. Those who need to know will recognize it. Those who do not will still be affected by it. This is enough. You are enough, and what you have received is sufficient for what comes next. You are enough not because you have reached some final version of yourself, but because you are standing in truth as you are. Nothing essential is missing. Nothing vital has been overlooked. What you have received is not incomplete, and it does not require you to hurry or prove its validity. Sufficiency does not mean everything is finished. It means everything needed for the next faithful step is already present. You are equipped for what is immediately ahead, even if what follows remains gently hidden. What you carry now will meet tomorrow with wisdom, not panic. You will not need to borrow strength from fear or motivation from comparison. The light you have received will reveal what matters when it matters. It will remind you to pause when rushing would cost you peace, and to move when hesitation would dilute clarity. This sufficiency is not loud or dramatic. It is calm. It is reliable. It is steady enough to sustain you through both movement and waiting. So you move forward without pressure to become more before you are allowed to begin. Growth will continue, but it will grow from wholeness, not lack. You are not preparing to live. You are already living aligned. And what comes next will not demand something you do not have. It will draw from what has already been formed within you. Discernment, patience, courage, and trust. This is how the journey continues, not by striving for sufficiency, but by walking from it. As you come to the end of this message, allow yourself a quiet pause, not to rush back into noise, but to notice what has shifted within you. If these words brought clarity, warmth, or steadiness, that is not something to keep to yourself. Think of it like finding a resting place on a long road. When you find water, you instinctively mark the spot not to claim it, but so others can be refreshed too. In that same spirit, you are welcome to like this message and share it gently with someone who may still be walking without shade. You may also choose to comment, not to explain yourself, but to leave a quiet trace that you were here, like carving a small mark on a tree along the path. A comment says, "This moment mattered to me." Others may see it later and realize they were not alone on this road. If this space has felt familiar to your spirit, if returning here feels like stepping onto solid ground, you are welcome to subscribe, not as a commitment to a channel, but as choosing a path that has already met you with understanding. Staying connected is simply choosing not to walk alone when you do not have to. And now, hear this part with complete freedom. If you feel moved to donate, understand it as an act of care, not currency, like leaving firewood beside a shelter you once needed. You are not buying warmth, you are helping ensure it remains for the next traveler who arrives cold and uncertain. Some will pass through and rest briefly. Some will stay longer. All are welcome. Giving, in any form, is never a requirement, only an offering made when gratitude overflows naturally. Your presence already matters. Your attention already counts. Support is simply one of many ways people participate when something has served them well. However you choose to respond, do so gently. What you carry forward now is enough, and the light you walk with does not diminish when shared, it multiplies.